And we go now to Mark Rienzi, President and CEO of the Becket Fund for Religious Liberty. Mark, great to be with you today. We have a lot to unpack. But first, let's talk about the case of the Christian postal worker from Pennsylvania and the ruling. Were you at all surprised?
No, I wasn't surprised, and I was happy to see that 9 justices on the court could agree to give religious workers real civil rights protections the way Congress intended them.
Mark, talk to us about the significance of this case and also what comes next.
This is a great example of the court correcting one of its old mistakes. 50 years ago, the justices had given the wrong interpretation to federal civil rights laws. And when they did that, they basically reduced the protection for religious employees who asked for accommodations. Congress had said that most of the time, employers should accommodate their workers' religious lives, which is, the reasonable and right thing to do. The court got that wrong 50 years ago, and today all 9 of them agreed to correct it and to say that most of the time, employers ought to accommodate the religious exercise of their employees, unless it imposes real substantial costs that make it hard to run the business. And that's just not going to be most of the time. So the result is that we're going to get a lot more religious freedom in the country, and a lot more religious workers will have the ability to get their religion accommodated.
Mark, another major ruling today that I want to talk about is the striking down of affirmative action in the college admissions process. Tell us more about this 6-3 decision and what it can mean for colleges going forward.
Well, the Supreme Court said that it's no longer okay for colleges to continue using race as a factor in choosing students for who gets in and who gets left out. And the court specifically talked about how race is being used not only as a positive factor for some, but as a negative factor for others. And the court said that in place of that, colleges should focus on the actual individual student and their own experiences. And it doesn't mean they have to ignore race. Race can be an important part of someone's experience. But the court said that the student has to be judged on his or her own life and record rather than the color of his or her skin.
Yeah, and I understand 2 of the justices, Clarence Thomas and Sonia Sotomayor, read a summary of their opinions on the case to the courtroom. What did you make of that move, that is, and is that typical?
It is common for justices to read either the majority opinion or a dissent or a concurrence from the bench. It does happen. I actually wasn't in the room when it happened, so I don't know how it went down in the room, but I do know it is something the justices do from time to time when they have a message that they think, they want kind of the world to hear from their own mouth as opposed to just reading it in print.
Yeah, and of course, we're still waiting on more decisions coming down. And one we've been watching very closely is 303 Creative. When do you think we can expect to see that decision, and any sense on how the justices may rule in that case?
Yeah, I think we'll see it between 10 and 10:10 tomorrow morning. I have pretty high confidence it's coming tomorrow morning. And I think we're going to see a strong win for the website designer. This is actually something that should be a very, very easy free speech case. The government doesn't get to force people to write things that they don't agree with, period, full stop. And when the government of Colorado tried to force that website designer to write websites for same-sex weddings, even though she didn't want to, they violated the Constitution. You can't make people do that. You can't force somebody to write a Trump for president commercial if they don't like Trump for president. Our government just doesn't get to force words out of our mouths or out of our pens. So it's going to be a win for the website designer. It's going to be a win for America and freedom and pluralism, that the government can't force us to do those things.
Yeah, we'll be waiting and watching on that one. Really quickly, we have about 30 seconds left or so, Mark. What other cases are you watching and still waiting to hear about?
The one other big one that we can expect to hear about tomorrow is the Biden administration's student loan program, and whether the administration has the ability to simply decide on its own and without any legislation from Congress that it's going to forgive some very large, like nearly $1 trillion worth of student loan debt. The question really is about federal power, right? Does the president have the ability to do that without a statute, or would Congress have to authorize that kind of move?
All right, we shall see what happens. Mark Rienzi, President and CEO of the Becket Fund, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you, Tracy.